What if I told you that one of the greatest leaders in history lost 8 elections, faced business failure, suffered personal heartbreak, and still became the President of the United States? His name was Abraham Lincoln. And his story is not just about success, it's about resilience. This is a story for anyone who's been knocked down, laughed at, underestimated, or told they weren't good enough. Because Lincoln's life proves one thing: failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Born into hardship, Lincoln wasn't born into wealth, privilege, or power. He was born on February 12, 1809, in a one-room log cabin in the wilderness of Kentucky. His family was poor, and survival was a daily struggle. As a child, he helped his father in the fields, often working from sunrise to sunset. His mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, died when he was just 9 years old. Her death left a scar on young Abe's heart. Losing a parent at that age is a pain that never really goes away. It either breaks you or builds something stronger within you. For Lincoln, it planted the seeds of inner strength. He had less than a year of formal schooling, but that didn't stop him. He taught himself how to read and write. He borrowed books, studied by candlelight, and educated himself while the world expected nothing from him. That's the first lesson from Lincoln's life. Your background does not define your future. Your effort does. His first taste of failure in 1832, at just 23 years old, Lincoln decided to run for the Illinois state legislature. He had no money, no connections, and barely any formal education. He lost badly. But here's the thing, he didn't quit. That same year, he opened a general store. It failed. He went into debt and spent years paying it back. Most people would have walked away, convinced that they weren't cut out for business or politics. But not Lincoln. He kept moving, kept believing, kept learning. Small wins and big losses in 1834. Lincoln ran again for the legislature. This time, he won. Slowly, step by step, he began to build a name for himself. But success wasn't steady. For every win, there were more losses. He lost the race for Speaker of the Illinois House, lost nominations, lost more elections, and then came heartbreak. He fell in love with a woman named Anne Rutledge, but she died of typhoid fever. The grief crushed him. Friends feared he might never recover. He even struggled with what we now know as clinical depression. Imagine chasing your dreams while carrying the weight of failure and heartbreak on your shoulders. That was Lincoln, a man battling the storms of life, but never letting them sink his ship. The reluctant lawyer and persistent politician. Lincoln went on to become a lawyer, walking miles to represent clients in rural courts. He built a reputation for honesty and fairness. They called him Honest Abe, but politics still pulled at his heart. In 1846, he was elected to Congress. It looked like things were turning around, but his term was uneventful. He opposed the Mexican-American War, an unpopular move that hurt his reputation. He didn't get re-elected, so once again, he disappeared from the political stage. For 5 long years, Lincoln stayed out of the spotlight. He focused on his law practice, but the fire inside him never went out. 8 losses. One man in 1854, he returned to politics, horrified by the spread of slavery into new territories. He spoke out, debated, and ran for the U.S. Senate. In 1856, he tried to get the vice presidential nomination of his party. He lost. In 1858, he faced off against Stephen A. Douglas in another Senate race. This time, his debates were legendary. He made headlines. His words echoed through the nation. A house divided against itself cannot stand. People listened, but still, ... he lost. That's 8 major political losses. Imagine the headlines today. Serial loser tries again. But Lincoln didn't care about the labels. He wasn't chasing popularity. He was chasing purpose. What failure teaches us. Abraham Lincoln's story is not a story of quick wins. It's not about overnight success. It's about showing up every day, even when the world laughs in your face. It's about falling and rising, again and again, until history can no longer ignore you. He once said, "My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure." He believed that failure was not the end of the story. It was the training ground for greatness. Every loss sharpened his resolve. Every defeat made his message clearer. Lincoln's journey didn't end with these failures. In fact, the second half of his story is where the real transformation begins. The rise of a nation's conscience. In 1860, after years of failure, heartbreak, and rejection, Abraham Lincoln did something no one expected. He won the presidency of the United States. Yes, the man who lost 8 elections was now leading an entire nation. But this wasn't a time for celebration. It was a time of crisis. The country was divided. North and South stood on opposite sides of slavery, economy, and culture. When Lincoln was elected, 7 Southern states seceded from the Union before he even took office. He stepped into the White House not as a victorious leader of a united people, but as the last hope to stop a nation from tearing itself apart. Let that sink in. After all the years of rejection, Lincoln was called not to enjoy power but to walk straight into chaos. And he didn't run from it. He faced it head-on. A nation at war. Soon after his inauguration, civil war broke out. It was the bloodiest conflict in American history. Brother fought against brother. Towns were destroyed. Families torn apart. Lincoln knew this war wasn't just about politics. It was about freedom, about the very soul of the country. But imagine the pressure. Thousands dying every day. Political enemies at his throat. A broken country on the brink of collapse. Any ordinary man might have given up. But Lincoln wasn't ordinary. He stayed up late every night, reading letters from soldiers and grieving mothers. He felt every loss, carried every burden. He visited hospitals, listened to cries of pain, and somehow still led with compassion and conviction. He once said, "I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I am bound to live by the light that I have." That light guided him through the darkest days. The Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, Lincoln made a bold, historic move. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation, a declaration that would free all enslaved people in Confederate states. Some feared it would divide the nation further. Others said it would cost him the next election. But Lincoln wasn't thinking about elections anymore. He was thinking about justice. He believed that no man should own another. That freedom wasn't a privilege, it was a birthright. With one signature, he changed the course of history. He gave hope to millions. And he proved that real leadership isn't about popularity, it's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Smoke and cannon fire fill the sky. Soldiers charge across muddy fields. The war drags on. 4 years of blood and heartbreak. In a dimly lit room, Abraham Lincoln stands over a desk covered in maps and letters. His face is tired, lined with the weight of every decision. Yet, his eyes hold steady. A general bursts into the room, frustrated. Lincoln listens, nods, then quietly says, "We learn, and we go on." Time passes. Battle after battle. The victories come slowly. A flag is raised. Cheers erupt. The tide is turning. April 1865. Confederate soldiers lower their weapons. Silence falls over the battlefield. It's over. The Union stands. Crowds celebrate in the streets. Freedmen and women cry, laugh, embrace. A new chapter begins. Lincoln walks through the White House. People smile. Some salute. But he stays quiet, thoughtful. Night falls. Ford's Theater glows with candlelight. Lincoln sits in the balcony, watching the stage, unaware of the figure creeping behind him. A shot rings out. The next morning, the sun rises over a mourning nation. Flags hang low. The country feels heavier, but in the silence, his voice remains. Not in sound but in spirit, in unity, in every dream of a better world. The power of relentless belief. Abraham Lincoln's story isn't just about political history. It is about what is possible when you don't give up, when you believe in something so deeply that no amount of failure, loss, or pain can take it from you. A younger Lincoln stands alone, holding a crumpled election flyer. People walk past, not noticing. He stares at it for a moment, then folds it, puts it in his coat, and keeps walking. Years later, he sits at a table, staring at an empty ledger. A banker shakes his head. Lincoln quietly thanks him and walks out into the cold, still determined. Crowds argue in the streets. Newspapers scream about war and slavery. Lincoln watches from a distance, then steps forward, into the storm, not away from it. Voiceover: he could have walked away after his first election loss. He could have quit after bankruptcy. He could have stayed silent when slavery tore the country apart, but he didn't. Cut to Lincoln at his desk, writing late into the night. He pauses, looks up, and softly says to himself, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And create it he did. A nation reborn. A people freed. A legacy forever. He gave the world more than policies. He gave it hope. He gave it proof that one person, no matter how poor, uneducated, or broken, can change the world. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more powerful stories that will fuel your motivation. Keep pushing forward, your journey is just beginning.